Hey everybody, I'm here to do my review on the newly released Paul McCartney and Wings One Hand Clapping. This is the LP, and I also have the CD. Now, if you want to see the contents of these, just see what they look like inside, please watch the video that I made just before this one where I unveil them and you can take a look at the inside. But I'm here right now just to talk about the actual music, okay? So let's do that. First of all, for people who don't know, One Hand Clapping was like a TV kind of show thing. It was a documentary kind of thing of the new band of Wings, which consisted of course, Paul and Linda McCartney, also with Denny Lane and Jimmy McCulloch, and also the drummer Jeff Britton. New band that they were going to do, and Jeff Britton, the drummer, didn't stay around very long, unfortunately. But they were in the Abbey Road studios in August of 1974. This was recorded by Jeff Emmerich, who a lot of you may know as the Beatles engineer, one of the Beatles engineers. And also, he was assisted by Mark Viggers and John Barrett. Then there was additional recording at Abbey Road in October of 74 and brass overdubs in January of 75. This is a very intimate experience when you listen to this, okay? That's the thing that I like about it. It's more personal. There's not a lot of heavy production really. It's just a different kind of experience, and overall a good one. So I'm going to talk about a general idea of the songs and tell you what I feel. Now, my first introduction to One Hand Clapping was many years ago, probably in the early 80s, where I had a bootleg VHS tape, okay, because this was recorded on video. I mean, whether it was film transferred to video or video, I'm not sure right now, but the thing is, there was a video of it out. As a matter of fact, you can find a released copy of One Hand Clapping, which is, I don't think it's complete, but it's on the first archive edition of Band on the Run, the package that was out when Paul started doing the series of archives. So you do have a copy of that, but everybody's always noting how the visual quality is not very good. All the same, I like when you're listening to stuff like this, whether it's live concerts, an arena or with a stage, or whether it's even something like this that's laid back inside the studio. If there's video, I kind of prefer to watch it with the video. I really wish they'd found a way to release this. Maybe they still will release the visual version of this, because even though by today's standards you're not talking about high definition, I think they still could put out whatever they have, the best elements, which aren't great anyway, but at least it's watchable. It's watchable. It's not that horrible. I think everybody's looking for perfection. Maybe they could put it out with a little disclaimer at the beginning. This is made from the best existing elements, the best we can have. Better than nothing. And I really think it was an oversight not to put it out on video. All right. We have here, as I said, Jimmy McCulloch, who's fantastic, a young guitarist. Jeff Britton on the drums, but Linda McCartney plays. Now, I always want to say the Moog, but of course, people are always telling me it's not pronounced Moog, and some people still do. It's pronounced Moog. I think even John Lennon called it Moog. George Harrison might have called it Moog. Whatever it is, Linda plays that. Also, the electric piano and mellotron. And when you first listen to this, it's very heavy in that. It's very synthesizer heavy. You could hear Linda kind of loudly on that. I like it as far as a change, just something that's different. I like hearing it like that. I like those sounds of what Linda's doing here. All right, so I think what I'll do is I'll talk about the highlights and then a few, in my opinion, lowlights, okay? First of all, it's almost consistently highlights. I mean, this is definitely a strong listening experience. This is really something that you want to hear if you're a big fan of McCartney, for sure. It starts out with the one hand clapping theme, which is an instrumental, and you would think, well, what's the big deal, for that? But I think it's kind of intriguing. I always like the one hand clapping theme. And then we get into some rockers here. And to me, in my opinion, this particular group of songs, this meeting that went on for a few days, is at its peak when they're rocking. I think the rockers here are more intriguing than the laid back tracks. Okay, that's for me. They do a version of Jet, which really rocks the house. I love it. And then, of course, there's a real good rocking version, as diehards will know, of a song called Soily. I think opinions are mixed on Soily. I've never been the biggest fan of Soily. I don't know what the hell it's about. You know, I don't think anybody does, even if you look up the words and follow along with lyrics. But that doesn't matter. Some of the greatest rock songs in the world don't have sensible lyrics. But I like the fact that they laid it down here. I mean, the only version that we have that I know of is really the version that's popular, what they did on the Wings Over America tour later on in 1976. That's where everybody knows Soily from. To have another version finally released here in this package is great, you know. So I like to hear Soily. They really, get into it. And I should also mention, if I didn't already, that this is the first time this stuff has been released. This has never been officially released before. I should have said that from the top. But we go with the flow. We're very loose here, right? So then we have a version of Maybe I'm Amazed. Not the best version I've ever heard of Maybe I'm Amazed, but it's good. And then we have My Love, ditto, I would say. Not the best I've heard, but good. Then we have Bluebird, which is nice. I'll Give You a Ring, which is really, really good to hear, with this collection of songs. I really know it as the B-side that was put out with Take It Away in 1982. That's where I really know it from. But really good to hear this assortment of tunes. Band on the Run, the classic. It's a really good version of that here, and a really good version of Live and Let Die also. These are all strong Wings songs, and at a time when Paul was really starting to take off with Wings. I think the peak of Wings was probably 1976, but they're really getting good here and really starting to come into their own. All right. Then we have a really cool version of 1985, which is one of my favorite songs by Paul and by Wings, And it's Paul mainly, at the piano doing it. It's not a big orchestrated, thunderous version that you're used to from the Band on the Run album, but it's certainly good, very good. And then we have Sea Moon and Little Woman Love. Paul loves that song, Sea Moon. It's a nice little ditty. I think it's kind of a little bit of a come down. Every time he does it, although I like it as a ditty, kind of like is a come down a little from what we've heard before. I don't know, previous stuff that's kind of like, now we're doing the old Sea Moon shtick again, but it's innocent enough. It's not unenjoyable. It's just, a little so-so, a little twee. And he joins that with Little Woman Love, which was a B-side from 72. Little Woman Love, not bad. All right. Also, this is all the good stuff. I think that's the best of disc 1. There's 2 discs. Disc 1 is probably more consistent than disc 2, but there's some good stuff on disc 2, so I'll move to disc 2 now. Let Me Roll It, really good version of Let Me Roll It. Blue Moon of Kentucky, that's a pretty good upbeat version of that. Now, Junior's Farm, here we go. Junior's Farm, one of my all-time favorite Paul songs, or one of my all-time favorite Wings songs. In 1974, Junior's Farm would be their new single. Okay, that's their new single from 1974. And the thing is, I've heard that this version, the version here, while very, very good, very enjoyable rocking version, I've heard this is a hybrid. Some people have told me this is Frankenstein together from other parts of other versions or something. And I think, from what I understand, that's the only song here that they do that with. But people can chime in, and I'm always up for learning new things and being corrected when I'm wrong, if I'm wrong. But the Junior's Farm, nevertheless, the version here on one hand clapping, perfect. I love it. Now, Sally G is performed next, which is the B-side of the Junior's Farm single. That's a real treat to have it here because, again, all I really know Sally G of is from the B-side single version. To have another one here, really good, but it's not as produced. I mean, you don't have Chet Atkins. You don't have a very countryish sound. And listening to it here, I figure the song itself just has a kind of country melody to it. but it doesn't have the twangy country guitar, obviously, in this version. But it's still great to have here. Nice. All right, then we have a really nice, speaking of nice, version of Go Now that Denny Lane sings, and that's a favorite of Paul and Linda's. They always loved that. They gave Denny the spotlight when they did Wings Over America in '76. Let him do Go Now, the Moody Blues song. A very good version here. Then we do a version of Wildlife, from the Wildlife album. I like the song Wildlife, and I'm a supporter of the Wildlife album, actually. I like Wildlife. This is a respectable version. I don't think it's as intense as the one on the album, but it's respectable. And then the closing song here is High, 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 a single from 1972. Great version of that here. Great version. That's the song they choose to close the album with here. But I'll get to that a little later. Okay, now these are all the things that I think are great. These tracks are my favorites. I really enjoyed them. Now, here's, trying to be fair, tell you the things that I was a little bit indifferent to, or which I thought weren't so great. Paul has to get sappy, because that's Paul, and that's okay. That's part of it. Even with the Beatles, he would sing Till There Was You, he'd always be that little kind of balladeer and always get a little twee. But he does, I don't know, a moment here on side one, Let's Love, and also All of You. I could do without those two, personally. Okay, now, the version of Tomorrow that's on here, which is a great song, should have been a single maybe, if they could have made it a little shorter or something at the end, from Wildlife. Tomorrow's a great song, but this version, while it's here, is kind of half-hearted. I don't find it really that arresting. Then you're talking about Beatles songs. Now, a lot of people who are not big fans may look at the Beatles songs listed here. There are 3 of them. Let It Be, Long and Winding Road, and Lady Madonna. 3 songs that I personally am tired of hearing all the time, even though I love them. But they get tiring after a while. They hear the same ones over and over again. But anyway, they're all disappointing. All 3 of them are disappointing, and they're very short. They're disappointing, not the best he's ever done with them. And they're short. Let It Be, and then I think Long and Winding Road and Lady Madonna are kind of combined, if I recall correctly. But yeah, the Beatles songs are no great shakes on here, and it kind of makes sense a little bit at this particular time in Paul's career. I don't think he was really focusing heavily on the Beatles stuff. He was really trying to get away from that. So I kind of understand that in '74 you might not get the most amazing, full-blooded and dedicated versions of Beatle tunes. Then we have a song which I think is I don't know what it's doing here. Apologies to Andy Nichols if he's listening, because he loves Red Rose Speedway, but you got a Power Cut. It's interesting that Power Cut is here, but it's a waste of energy as far as I'm concerned. All right. Then you have Love My Baby, which is unremarkable. Finally, I'm going to talk about just a little bit about a little ditty that is at the end of side 1, I believe. Babyface, the old song, Babyface, you got the cutest little baby face. We know. McCartney loves schmaltz. He loves Fred Astaire. And there's nothing wrong with a little. It's very short. It's fun. Paul's having a laugh. I tell you, personally, I think they should have put it as the very last track. I think it would have been good as an add-on at the end of the whole thing. Instead of the end of side 1, the end of side 2, or disc 2. I say side 2. There's actually 4 sides, to the vinyl version. But, the last track on the presentation. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is a track that's not here, that was on the VHS that I had. I think it was originally part of this production. That's the song called Suicide, which we get to hear a little snippet of it on McCartney's debut album, McCartney. And Suicide is a song that, as I understand it, he kind of wrote with Frank Sinatra in mind, or whether he had him in mind or not. I know he wanted Frank Sinatra to possibly do this song, and he offered it to him, and I think Frank Sinatra was kind of turned off by the whole idea, and he never did it. I personally, I can't see that song being done by Frank Sinatra either, but who knows. But Suicide is not here, the song. I don't know why. I don't know for what reason it's not included here. That's a mystery right now that I don't know the reason. Maybe you do. I don't know it. So overall, with this, the final thoughts. I had a very good time as a diehard fan. I think as a diehard Paul McCartney fan, you have to have this. Aside from the quibbles that I had, I'm just trying to give an honest assessment here. This is really a lot of fun. It's to say it's a good performance. They're cooking, especially on the rockers, especially. And I think true McCartney lovers should relish this. If you're a casual Beatles fan, casual Paul fan, take it or leave it, I don't think you'll be as wooed or wowed. All right? But that's it, folks. Enjoy.